Was started as fun, now pretty soon had become aliens from outer space.
Musician Jim Chorley has a very personal connection with crop circles. Back in the 1970s and 80s, Jim's dad, Dave, snuck around the countryside at night with his friend Doug Bauer and made hundreds of formations using a plank and a piece of rope.
They saw it as a kind of a folk art form. It was the biggest canvas that they could possibly ever use. When they first started, they made a bit of a pact between themselves to keep it, a secret, as it were.
And they kept their secret for more than 10 years, during which time their designs grew ever more ambitious. But eventually, Doug Bauer's wife, Eileen, grew suspicious.
They used to go to a pub called Percy Hobbs, just outside Winchester. But she was wondering why there were so many miles on the clock. And I think she basically said to him, you need to tell me what's going on here. Is there something I need to know?
She thought he was having an affair, didn't she?
I think she thought that he was up to no good.
He said, well, what do you want me to do to prove it to you? I said, I'll select a design, I'll select a field, and you can do it the next evening, and then you can take me and show me that you've done it. And this is what he had to do.
Eileen became part of the team, and the secret remained intact. Jim remembers the moment his dad told him a few years later.
It surprised me because obviously you would never think that your dad was responsible for something like that. But then when I looked at it all, I thought actually there was lots of indicators. They were out on Friday night and these crop circles were being formed on Friday nights generally. There was another lovely thing that he used to do where they'd maybe come back at he'd come home at maybe 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning and he'd put like a little piece of corn on the kitchen table.
We're not saying, are we, that your dad made all the crop circles in the 1980s?
No, I mean, clearly there was lots of other circles that were being made that may or may not be being made by other beings. At the end of the day, I know that they were there at the very beginning of it and they, were the inventors of the magical, mysterious crop circle art form.
The mystery attracted international attention, with all kinds of explanations being suggested, much to the amusement of Doug Bauer.
These were so-called researchers. They connected their circles with burial mounds and ancient hill forts. There's no connection at all. It's just that the film was good as far as we were concerned, to have a bit of a laugh.
A flattened circle in a cornfield.
What started as a prank had gone far enough. When Doug and Dave heard that taxpayers' money was to be spent on investigations, they went to the newspapers.
They were aware of the fact that if they were to come clean, the world's press would be wanting a story, and it was, and they travelled all across Europe and sharing their story, but they weren't prepared for some of the backlash.
I'll take the lovely young lady, out today, hold the stick with me and you can do exactly one of these circles. So that's simplicity. If you get a general public and you're in a certain profession, then you can bamboozle them. Ruskin wrote a book on Turner, the great genius. But when Turner got the book, he couldn't understand what was being talked about. Neither could we.
I can understand why people would need to still believe in the magic of it, as I still believe in the magic of it, as we're sat here now. This is magical. My dad would always say, there's no better place for an Englishman, than his countryside at dawn.
Despite the family connection, until now, Jim has kept his distance.
I've never visited a crop circle before. This is the very first one today that I've actually come and walked into a field and sat in the middle of.
How does it feel?
It feels great. It's very lovely. It's very meaningful. As we walked into the crop circle and into the edge, I just sort of took one moment just to remember my dad and think about him, and it brought a smile to my face, and to look around and see people here enjoying it, it's a lovely thing to know that his legacy lives on. There's no better place for an Englishman than his countryside at dawn, telling legends and stories in the land they were born, painting circles in the corn.